So welcome to another one of our little sound bites on the invisibles. So welcome, Vicki, again. So we wanted to share one of the things that we have seen that is pretty invisible to a lot of people. And it was invisible to me, for sure, until I was introduced to the fact, I was going to say the idea, but actually the fact. That we as human beings have this huge capacity for insight. And it's the insight, this capacity for insight that we have that actually does the heavy lifting. It's the thing that actually creates long-term sustainable change. Without insight, we don't have a shift. Or we might have a very temporary shift when we hear somebody's good idea and we take it on and think, okay, I'll go and do that. I mean, that happens to us all, right? Like I see somebody tell me that it's a good idea to write in your gratitude journal every day. And I find myself, oh, that's a good idea. I'll go and do that. And by day 2, I've forgotten about it because it wasn't my insight. It was somebody else's suggestion. It was somebody else's idea. So it doesn't have that long-term effect that insight has. And so that for us is one of these invisible things that's happening. And it's not like insight is something special. It's a human trait. It's something that is available to all of us all the time. And it's happening for us all the time. But because, again, it's invisible, we haven't given it the importance or the respect even that, I don't know, I was going to say it requires it. It's I don't think of the word, but it deserves is the word, I suppose. Yeah. But it's just fascinating to me that I had gone through my 50 years of life without realizing the power of insight. Like it hadn't dawned on me. It hadn't been pointed out to me before. And now it's like, of course, I mean, it's just so obvious to me. For me, it's really visible. And I think when we talk about insight, maybe people have a meaning of an idea of what I mean by insight. And for me personally, I know when I came across this idea or this pointing to insight, it was like, well, what do you mean? Do you mean? And I hear people talk about it in different ways. Do you mean just I see something fresh and you're in the moment, and it's like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. That's like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh, I hadn't, an aha moment. So for me, that's one type of insight, I suppose. And then there's something deeper that I've experienced too, is where I know something shifting, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Like there's something, like I know something's happening. It's a really strange one. It's like there's something happening, but I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I know there's something changing, there's something shifting. And so for me, it's like that sort of the formless, if you like, insight, the invisible insight. And then there's the visible aha one.
It's like you can't explain it. It's not explainable almost. Like you can't verbalize it, but you can feel that there's something that your mind is kind of changing or doing something, and you don't know what the consequence of that will be, but you know that something's going on.
What else have you seen about insight?
I think I used to get when I first heard this idea that humans have this capacity for insight, I really didn't understand what that meant. I was like, what I don't understand, what are they talking about? And like you say, I think it was really helpful to realize that it's just seeing something differently. And that in doing that, it has a shift on our experience, I guess. So I think a really good example, a really obvious example, is kind of around Father Christmas. Hopefully there's no children in the room. You know,
move them out now.
quickly, we're going to talk about Father Christmas. Don't you know? Move them out.
Clear them
in. But you know that at some point there was a shift, and we moved from believing in Father Christmas to not believing in Father Christmas. And from that moment, everything changed. We stopped. Well, we might not have done, because we might have done it because we knew that our parents would pretend anyway. But you know, like you kind of stop doing the things that you did for Father Christmas. You stop putting your stocking out. You stop putting a glass of brandy out and a mince pie, which is what we always did, because it doesn't make sense. Why would you do that if Father Christmas doesn't exist? I mean, if this man with a white beard isn't coming down the chimney, then why just doesn't make sense to put stuff out for him. But until the moment you see it, it makes complete sense to do that. And that to me is like, that's all an insight is. It's just a moment when you see something that you didn't see before, and in seeing that, your behavior, your experience, everything changes. So that is how change happens. It's not through changing behaviors. It's not about looking at behaviors and trying to make a behavior change. It's about going right back from that. How is the behavior happening in the first place? And when we go back, like in the example of Father Christmas, it was just the thought, oh, hang on, he doesn't exist, it's mum and dad or whatever. Then the behavior changed. And I just think that the insights is just, it's something that I had no idea about. I tried to change things before looking at behavior. And now I see it so much more simply, that it's just simply being open, I guess, open to seeing something different. So if we have a very fixed idea about something, for me, that's the place to kind of look, to get curious about, okay, what else is there I can see about this? And in doing that, we're opening ourselves up to this capacity to see it differently.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is.
Yeah, and I mean, I could, there's many insights I've had along the way, and just thinking about that, from a health perspective.
Yeah.
I know people, talking about changing behaviour. So sometimes people try again to follow somebody else's way of diet, for example. So for me, not eating gluten makes sense, and I learned that when I first diagnosed with Crohn's back in 2013. I did a lot of research, and it was don't eat gluten. So I stopped because that's what I read. But now it just doesn't make sense. I can't see any, for me personally, and it's not because it's somebody else's idea. It just doesn't make, I guess it's at a visceral level now. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And so many other things like alcohol don't make sense to me personally. To drink alcohol, it doesn't make any sense. It's not something I've had to train myself to do, or it just suddenly overnight, it was like, it just doesn't make sense to put that into me anymore. I might have a new insight and see something different around that, and it might change again. I don't know. But at the moment, and that's when behaviours just become, for me, it was really easy, because I've seen it as I think you were pointing out, it doesn't make sense. So when something doesn't make sense, you just don't do it anymore. It makes sense to do it or not to do it. It's just, there's no thinking about it, like, willpower, or, forcing myself to do something, or denial even. I mean, I've had people say to me, many people, oh, you poor thing, you have to go without so much. And I think, I don't feel like that. I don't feel sorry for me. I'm happy not to be eating those things. I choose not to. It's not somebody's forcing me to do it. I just don't want to. It's a whole different, it's a whole different feeling.
I love what you say about that could change. And that's the key, isn't it? And I think that's one of the things that we'll really be delving into in the Invisibles and to Gut Health course, is that, in every moment we can be responsive to ourselves and that in one moment it might not make sense to eat gluten, and in another moment it might make sense, and that's okay, because we're really learning to tune in, not to what we've been told we must do or mustn't do, but to what feels right in that moment for us and our body. So,
and it's a very individual experience for each of us. It's and a lot of things out there are very global, you know. It's like everybody who's got this shouldn't eat that, and everybody, you know, should do this, and everybody, and life doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. And that's hopefully the beauty of our course, is that each of us is going to be in an exploration for each of us, each one of us. It's very, very individual. So super looking forward to it.
Me too.
Very excited for delving in. So details you find underneath this video. All being well, we've done our homework correctly, and we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye for now.
Bye.